trying to get on a hammer.
Yeah, see about that draft.
But that was, again, some hella good Divine Storms from Tiger JK. Simplicity has obviously put so much thought into these hammer comps. I would not be surprised if we just see that banned.
There's no way, right? Unless you are 100% willing to commit to a Chromie.
But then you give Garrosh, which Tempo has been banning Garrosh every time. I think I'd be more willing to deal with the Garrosh than, nope.
All right, does Tempo first pick hammer?
Maybe.
I mean, there's obviously formulas out there that can deal with Sergeant Hammer. It's just so far they've been very few and far between. Hanzo is one, but I think Hanzo needs a lot more around him to make that work. Johanna, obviously, I think does okay. Murden, as we saw, did stack up pretty decently. Maybe not the Haymaker had the impact that they had hoped for. Genji seems like a likely ban here. Yeah, there it is. So
okay.
Here we go.
The intentions have been made clear. All right.
That's another hero that can jump on there. A soft Haymaker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't have a Haymaker, but you do have the hammer, as does the Simplicity. Hammer Deckard together.
I don't see how you can not pick Chromie. Like, what else? I mean, I think Hanzo's okay. Who else has good range? Raynor has a really cool trait still before he gets reworked. He's got 6.5 range.
I think Chromie is more likely to be picked than Jimmy right now. We'll see if that changes post-rework.
With 6.5 range.
I get where you're going. I can respect it, Malfurion. Is there any... Yeah.
There's no way you can not Chromie. Now, the question begs, what Chromie build? Because we've seen multiple versions of it. And Mobius Loop seems to be a must.
Yeah, I looked. They're the exact same cooldown. Neo Steel Plating and Dragon's Breath. So if you want to make sure that you are getting max value out of it, you Mobius Loop. But it's whether or not you want to increase the damage by going the Dragon's Breath build fully, like Big E did. I think Prismatis has improved that it's just fine as long as you are accurate. Not that Big E wasn't. Big E was landing
insanely accurate.
Yeah,
though.
Big E built his stacks up super fast, though both of them, his level 1 and his trait. So we'll see. But that is a good question, and one that I was wondering myself.
Well, Malfurion also has Enervate as well to help with cooldowns, so some control. Johanna, I like it. Murden seems like it might be a thing that we could see, but Simplicity could just as well pick that up to deny that from Tempo Storm and limit their engagement tools.
I think that's very likely, especially given King Caffeine. The only scary thing is that teams can be worried about people diving past the Murden since you just have the Stormbolt. Thunder burn a little bit to try to slow people down as they dive in, but we've seen at MSB that people have been willing to do that, and that might be where Sergeant Hammer normally would be a little bit scared, but between Neo Steel Plating and the Deckard Cane and the control there, I don't think it's going to be quite as terrifying, especially since from what we see from Tempo Storm, they already have Chromie. That would maybe leave her and Malfurion vulnerable, so I think it would be a good pickup for Simplicity.
You know, if you're worried about getting supplemental heals and armor available to the Sergeant Hammer, similarly to Brightwing, but somebody that might have a little bit more offense to them, somebody I hypothesized on the ride here on Volskaya. They also throw owls.
No, I know. Well, now maybe because it's Stitches. You think Stitches to Rhonda?
Well, okay, so the reason why obviously is you can stun, you can reduce armor, and you can make targets vulnerable, but you have at level 4, you have a spell armor option. I believe it's 15 armor, and when your heal is on a long cooldown, but every time you auto attack, it comes down cooler. So obviously Deckard has incredibly low cooldowns, can really keep that there. But if it's a matter of do we need double support, and what really gives us that double support option, but also gives us that protection and maybe some damage that might be needed. I'm really starting to wonder. Obviously, the real reason Tyrande isn't picked is because she's more of a liability. Her health pool's not incredibly high, despite her having healing. If she becomes a liability, you can still only heal one person from their main support, so just brainstorming.
Also, wave clear, linear drafts. There's your Hanzo from Tempo Storm.
That's 2 long-range options.
Yes.
Hanzo missing one of those extra ranges. He's now in full Jimmy territory.
But you can charge up Stormbow to get the extra range from that too.
I wonder if that could be a thing, is to maybe
Stormbow
go
build?
Stormbow build at level 1 to ramp that up.
I've seen a couple players build fully into that, even with spell power at level 7 Mene.
Well, this is a great map for it. If you, I mean, you got to hit all targets. They're going to be right there. They're not going anywhere.
Last pick for simplicity. Now that they have Stitches, I know that it's been hosty playing Sergeant Hammer, but I wonder again. Gorge is a whole lot more fun when you have a portal to go through.
Yeah. Was it Fury that was tweeting out? He's like, this composition.
He did.
That was a very different composition.
I was on Volskaya too.
Jaina. So getting a little bit more frontline control, a little bit more burst damage, so not willing to commit to any type of double support. Making sure to just kind of bring the pain in there. A K1 special, we know him to definitely play that, so that solves that riddle. Not the hero I might have been expecting, but definitely gives you a lot of damage in frontline control.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting Tyrande. I was just hypothesizing because, you know, an audience of 1 is cool in the car, but I've got an audience out there that can also think I'm crazy for thinking about Tyrande in this situation.
Yeah, you gotta spread the good word of Tyrande, of the Owls, the Parliament.
I think she's got a place. I really do. Small place, but it's there.
Could have been here, but, and with K1 Pro, could have been that pick too. But it's funny, I was like, racking my brain, are they going to do a secondary support here? Do we see some change up with a Medivh finally making his way back to the Nexus for NA HGC? What could it possibly be? So flexible. The world is their oyster. It's K1 Pro. No, it's Jaina.
Yeah. K1 Pro, Tyrande. Probably the last time. I think they ran the Rexar Tyrande comp the last time I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
If I remember, yeah, the Rexar Tyrande comp on Tomb of the Spider Queen. They ran that multiple times.
With Dream.
Yeah. My Dream.
A name I haven't heard in a while.
You put him on these teams and you know you've got everybody that has been around for quite some time. Except Ben, he's the new guy.
Rocking the Chromie with the standard build. But as you've said before, accuracy is going to be key. Always is for these skill shot heroes, though. One nice thing is, of course, sieging up gives you a tool to make your accuracy a little bit better. They're not moving too fast.
Especially not till level 7.
And then it's still not too fast.
I think the one thing that Jaina does here, it allows Stitches to go into that dampen magic at level 1. He's one of the few heroes that still has the traditional dampen magic, but it mitigates spell damage. And pretty significantly, you can see when that spell shield goes up. So dealing with that momentary splash damage from Chromie coming in is something to go into.
Shando's Clarity level 1 is something that June has been known to go into sometimes, and here you talked about giving some cooldown reduction. This is going to give cooldown reduction for Innervate, as long as June's got his regrowth going, and it's June. He is a Malfurion master, so he'll be able to give those cooldowns and allow Chromie to shell out even faster, as well as, of course, give her mana to supplement that.
Cattle, of course, always changing up his build. This time going third win, making sure to survive a bit longer on the points. No stacking of that Q talent in this game likely will be Avatar, but the way that we've seen some adaptations, maybe it's get healing at these levels and then make room for Haymakers. We see Cattle going up against Blaze there in the bottom. Him and Zuna facing off as we've seen them many times over the years.
When we used to see a Honkono Muradin with a Haymaker, it generally was, though, more of the everything else is going to be survivability, and then you could feel more free for a Haymaker. Hook hits Glaurung. Great body blocks, too. The Scroll of Sealing. Avenging Rats out right at the bitter end. And that's Yrel doing what she does best.
is by doing what she doesn't do, and that's die.
Mm-hmm.
So not too bad there. Definitely a scary moment there, but Jaina obviously the major threat there. You got to imagine if that's level 7, you got the cooldown reduction on that Q. Maybe 1 or 2 more pokes there would fit in that and get the kill, but early game, maybe even a little bit of slam damage, but again, Dampen Magic was the pickup, so a tanky hero like that, very hard to take down.
A lot of times what we see from Tempo Storm is a rotation up to this heal camp. They haven't done so yet. Respecting that early game kill potential from this team, also the hooks. Kind of makes them sitting ducks trying to sit around that for not only the hooks, but the Sergeant Hammer too. Tempo Storm have been notoriously absent from that heal camp, instead just trying to make the appropriate rotations around to get their assault camp and get ready for this first control point, which as always is in the mid.
You know, one thing I'm curious about is how many people took note of Rich at Mid-Season Brawl on Hanzo's level 4. This was one of the maps where I guess it probably makes the most sense. It's the Untold one, the one where you can clear heroes just by or not heroes, clear minions with that auto attack. But for several seconds after that, you get added auto attack range. And against the Sergeant Hammer, those minions are right in your territory to go over, get that auto attack, get the insta-kill, and then turn to have that extra auto attack range. And I wonder if people might have picked up on that on Mid-Season Brawl. It was only played in 1 game. I believe it was actually unsuccessful in that game. But you start thinking about Hammer on the other side, that might be a tool that Hanzo could use going forward.
Oh my gosh!
That hook!
What a combo! Zuna and Cap, calm down!
Dude, I felt bad for Vin. He was there and then he was gone.
Hook jet propulsion, the dream. Tempo were like, yeah, okay, you can have the point for a little bit. We'll contest in a little bit. Yikes. All right, so you were saying?
Yeah, Hanzo's level 4. I mean, it pretty much tried to summarize it there, but his other level 4, because you get the added range to it, it's the ignore all distractions. So you instantly kill minions, which are right beside you, and then you get extra 2 auto attack range. As King Caffeine running for his life here, there's going to be a stun, there's going to be some added damage. But Hosty and team, they're sieged up here. They're protecting Tiger JK, putting out the heals. The big flank from K1 Pro, though, has got Vin on his heels with the real action here. As Blaze first to fall, Hosty, there's no way he survives. And a very, very aggressive approach here from Tempo Storm pays off.
Tempo willing to get right back into the action now, not allowing Simplicity to take this for free. Only 53%, so they jumped onto that point as quickly as they could after losing Vin. K1 Pro's known for those Jaina flanks, but unfortunately not being able to get enough done to take out Vin in the back. He was forced back, and then that is just one of the primary problems with the Stitches, is if he gets controlled on that front line, he has no real means of escape. Putrid Ball can help because it gives you the movement speed, but body blocks are a very real concern for him, and a lot of crowd control, which is what Tempo Storm does have. 8 is here, slowing stands is the choice of heroic ability. Another hook, it's Fan though, he has natural agility. He'll make his way off the point.
Holding point, but it's contested. This will go to 99% or anything else. Yeah, King Caffeine, it's, I would say stuck in mud, but he's stuck in the slowing sands there. The turrets facing off against each other, those are cleared up. Simplicity and team, they're going to hold point. Cap needs heals. He did go amplified healing, so that's going to help. There's going to be the hook into the jet propulsion. Cattle turns around with a little bit of stun of his own, but the Dragon's Breath hitting 3 members there, keeping Simplicity at those low health bars, Gillen.
Yeah, that is still with Mobius Loop too. You can imagine the damage done with Dragon's Eye, but still having the Dragon's Breath in. Deckard Cain is just not able to heal this team up in the same way. He has sustained healing, but you're asking for a lot when multiple people are getting hit by a single Dragon's Breath. So finally, Tempo Storm walk away with the first Protector, and they're going to walk that straight up to the top lane. They also have a level lead over Simplicity as they work toward getting heroic abilities off this Protector.
Yeah, a lot of times, you know, we'd see that rotation between mid and top, but you do take a little bit of damage going towards that mid. They actually took quite a bit of damage there from the Jaina poke, but I wonder also with the changes to that experience if we might see an adaptation to ignore that mid lane and come up. You get more experience now out of the full top lane push into the fort, but K1 Pro letting him know whose territory this is. Puts down the spray, and this Protector, only 7% left. K1 Pro, though, I'm pretty sure is dead now.
Especially with that root. 10 here, Alfurian thinking about it. Hosty trying to boost his way out. Tempo Storm are going to be able to get a fort from a first protector, which is very nice to be able to say.
Look, I thought K1 played that really well, and then he just walked forward and he felt overconfident, I think, at that moment. And again, I think that prioritizing just going straight through that top lane, we're now looking at a much larger lead than we would have if we just get the simple double lane rotations with the well. Obviously, they still did damage to the middle, but the aggressive front to that top lane might be the new way to approach this map.
Yeah, I want to talk about this level 4 talent for Urel because it seems like it could be very influential in Simplicity's ability to get kills. There is no real cleanse for Tempo Storm. They have Nature's Cure, which we talked about some of the drawbacks to that. But having this Hand of Freedom gives 50% movement speed to an allied hero and then also removes slows and roots from them. And what we've seen is a hook into an immediate jet propulsion. Use that afterward and it's going to function to give them movement speed. And then hopefully if there's a slow from Jaina, it's enough, or a root from Deckard, enough to allow them to run away in time so that Urel can try to help save, especially if there's a hammer that follows that up for a disengage.
You bring up a really good point there. We'll see how it plays out. Time Trap should lock one member down. Hook's gonna miss there, and the healing pulse picked up here by Tempo Storm. So again, getting a little bit more control. Urel seems to be able to do a little bit of everything, so working out there. Cattle walks forward, gets another hammer in the face. Yeah, and he's actually completed his baseline quest, so he does get the Pierce now. Again, did not go into that level 1 quest though, so no bonus damage.
K1's about halfway through getting improved Ice Block, and Chromie's sitting at 39 stacks. Simplicity picked up a Lornado instead of the Stay a While and Listen that I was expecting should Tempo Storm dive in on a Poor Stitches in the same way before. But we've also seen Stay a While and Listen and Putrid Bile have some anti-synergy, because if the Bile's already down and you try to stay a while, people are going to wake up really fast, so you're just not kind of getting the same kind of effect you would like.
If I'm walking around in Putrid Bile, I'm probably getting woke too.
Nice knockback. Waiting around for the second control point, which will unlock in 30 seconds. Tempo have 13 that Simplicity is lacking. We'll see if Simplicity can try to get some structural damage done. Often when this happens, when a team goes for the opposite lane, the other team just goes down, either fully engages on it or leaves one and then just defends at the fort so that nobody gets anything past the towers. And because the towers don't give enough comeback experience, you basically guarantee yourself that you're going to get that protector without any engagement.
Well, there's going to be an engagement as the Storm Arrow, or the Dragon's Arrow, is going to hit Tiger JK. The focus there does walk away for the moment. Putrid Bile used as the disengage. I think the problem with this is that 13 so far away. Tempo Storm, had they got the kill, would have been great there, but they also have a camp pushing top lane. I feel had they put any amount of pressure towards that lane, maybe clearing one or a second wave, could have taken the keep wall, and then they could use the protector going forward to take that keep. They opted not to give up too much bot lane control since the next control point is down there, so some decision making going in here, but with time to spare due to that major experience lead, definitely something that they're trying to see if they can make in their favor.
Well, Simplicity saw that the camp was taken to get the turret.
Hanzo's showing bottom too, by the way.
So this allows Simplicity to get on the point for a little bit of time, though Tempo Storm can step forward and try to siege down that mid fort if they want. They have plenty of time to get back to this the control point, and in the interim, they steal away to get a turret, which just fortifies their positioning even more once they do decide to strike.
Well, Tempo Storm is coming back fully loaded, Gilly. They've got the healing pulse, they've got the turrets. No longer the talent tier advantage. They're going to rely on those items that they love to prioritize. Everybody's making their way up. There's going to be a hook. There's going to be a stun. The healing pulse is there. Ardent Defender says no healing pulse needed, but that save button no longer there. We'll see if Simplicity can get another crack at this, whether Tempo Storm can take second protector of the game.
This has been really good synergy from the front line, but if they're going to get that kill on someone so tanky, they're going to need to somehow get K1 Pro in there, and that slowing sands is separating the team. Blunt Force Gun is out. Lornado and Bunker are going to disrupt somewhat from Tempo Storm, but with a Tranquility behind, Tempo Storm are going to be very healthy as Simplicity come out of this bunker.
Yeah, but now the damage is coming in. Cattle gets hooked in, goes right back out, does get rooted. Zuna holding point, but for how long, as he is going to be the first to fall in this long skirmish. Posty trying to hold position, but uses those thrusters, backs away, and now Tempo Storm an opportunity. I was surprised that Simplicity didn't back away, regroup, and then try and send it to overtime because the percentage was on their side. They were the ones in control, but they stood on there, they looked to fight. The bunker went down very timely because King Caffeine, Deckard could not heal enough. Deckard was putting everything into keeping Stitches alive. But now, Tempo Storm, second protector of the game. That experience lead goes from 1 to 1.5 to, well, we're sitting at 2.5. By the end of this skill, it'll probably be around 3.
That was just some excellent macro play from Tempo Storm that they go through the mid. They had that lane pushed out. They were patient. They got both turrets so that though they did give a fight to Simplicity on even terms, they were confident that they could take that fight. Getting that 1 kill just barely gave the 16 with this, which makes this a whole heck of a lot worse for Simplicity to try to stop.
Featured Violet going out, trying to buy a little bit of time. They want to keep the keep alive, but it is already incredibly low, sitting at about 20%. But so is the Punisher. They're trying to get the range damage down. Minions are here. They need to clear those up if they're on the side of Simplicity. But Tempo Storm not prioritizing that Q from the Protector. They ended up prioritizing it on the heroes.
There it goes.
Keep still not down.
If someone went down from that, possibly Tempo could have stepped back forward to get it. But it's still so low, and the minions are coming back in. They draw Simplicity out. Simplicity need to be very careful here.
Well, they also have Chromie. We've seen similar rotations where you just kind of go make something else happen on the map. In the minute 1 or 2 people show, but there's going to be a hook in on Urel. Again, Ardent Defenders there. And Chromie continuing to drop bombs. That keep is so low. It's such a priority. Will Tempo Storm be punished as they are in a brawl here for the last several seconds?
You could see Vin clear in the bottom, dropping the damage, the Dragon's Breath on the keep, and Simplicity just hoped that they could get kills on someone else while they were at the fact. The keep finally went down. Tempo Storm are okay to leave the location now, very happy that they got a keep, and it's in the opposite lane of the next control point, which is even harder now for Simplicity. No Dahaka this time for Zuna.
You could see the vision coming out was definitely to see if they could come in for the invade here on the turret, and it is still here. Chromie dropping bombs from distance. Lornado's trying to lock people out, but Cattle able to walk away. He comes back in, gets a little bit more damage onto Zuna. And this experience lead, this talent tier advantage is heavily working in favor of Tempo Storm as they're in complete control.
This is one thing we do love about Simplicity, though. They know when they need to take these fights that are disadvantageous because they're not getting any better. And unfortunately, this team is way split. Jaina's top, Sergeant Hammer's mid, and the double tank at the bottom. They might survive for a little bit with this bunker. In fact, they do survive, but it was perilous, especially for King Caffeine. He just takes a heavy fire every time he tries to step forward on the Stitches.
It's been a tough go of it on that front line. I mean, you got to give him credit, though. He's held on in several clutch moments from the healing of Deckard Cain. It's just the firepower in return of the hammer. Jaina has not connected. They haven't had the opportunity. They had the really good hook into the root in a couple of those moments early in the game, but those have not been there for quite some time.
I'm wondering what we see Jaina get here. We've seen a lot of both Northern Exposure and Numbing Blast. If they want to get some frontline damage, we expect Northern Exposure, but not, we're going to see them focus on getting Numbing Blast there for more of the lockdown. Simplicity, this is the fight that they want. Tempo Storm are going to give it to them.
Hosty ends up being a priority target. He's trying to get away, uses the thrusters to dodge damage. Ardent Defender soaking up a lot of that Blizzard. The Water Elemental is out trying to do damage. Fight split on several fronts here. And this Healing Pulse is still a point of contention, and it looks like it's finally going over to Tempo, but there's going to be a hook in. Cattle Dwarf tosses out, dodges the jet propulsion there from Zuna. Control point active. Simplicity might be on their last leg, though.
Yeah, 19 to 16, they have to keep fighting. They're going to have heroic abilities back pretty soon. Tranquility, Avatar, Dragon's Arrow, not a whole lot was used from Tempo Storm to get that heal pulse.
Well, I think the one thing that is always a little bit weird, because we normally see that rotation down to the bot lane to get some priority, and they ended up having to commit a lot to the top. Taking a Protector all the way from the bottom of the map to that top lane does generally, you lose quite a bit of health. Speaking of losing health, King Caffeine trying to survive, getting the healing potions, not able to get the bunker down in time. So King Caffeine falls. You can see the desperation of K1 Pro going in forward, trying to get some damage, but it is all for naught, and Simplicity starting to fall apart here.
Yeah, they're going to lose a whole lot more. And part of that was King Caffeine with the Stitches was very separate from the rest of the team. He wanted to get on the point. He wanted to fight on the point. But again, he's playing Stitches. It's a lot more about bringing the kills to your team, not necessarily hopping on top of that point, though you do get a lot with the slows of your Putrid Bile. Still, the separation was made more severe by Tempo Storm by Glaurung. Glaurung went to the back, knocked Sergeant Hammer back even farther, and it was so far away, Zuna had to slide in to try to drop that bunker, and it just wasn't in time to save King Caffeine. Now Caff is the lone survivor left to try to defend versus Tempo Storm. As we do have Blaze now, though, too. It's still, they're going to get one shot left to defend, but it's versus 20, and it's going to be versus the Protector.
Yeah, I mean, this is the situation now. After that team fight, the bot fort is now no longer an issue. Neither is the keep wall, and the probability of winning at this point in the game, Gilly, this is a much stronger situation for them to be in. The Protector, your win probability at this rate, when it's 20 tier to anything other than 20, and all you have to do is go through a keep and the core, it's about 99%. I mean, you could almost put it in the books at this point, but Tempo Storm, they're going to load up. They've got turrets, they've got Chromie in here, they're going all in, and it looks like they're actually just not even going to go through the bot lane. They are going to take this all the way to the top, and with a minute and a half left, you got to imagine this is just a little bit of a formality here for Tempo Storm.
I almost wonder with a different set of heroic abilities, like if Stay a While and Listen maybe would have had better ease of locking down Glaurung, because the Glaurung, he wasn't really like killing anybody too much. He was splitting up the team a lot and causing, just being a general nuisance to those backliners.
Tiger JK first to fall, Sergeant Hammer the second. Tempo Storm, much more control in this game. Play of the game fan. He's like, look, I don't really want to die here, but I guess I got to. But the Protector is the main point here, is the core already down to 80%. Dancing around this. The Protector, though, not prioritizing the core at this point, just kind of playing with their food, something we know Stitches likes to do. The Tempo Storm going to go up 2-1 here. And we figured out the Hammer composition.
Yeah, back to my point, I just wonder if something else, like maybe a Gorge with a lot of focus on the Gorge with the Stay a While and Listen on everyone else to try to get a kill on someone. Obviously, Ardent Defender is going to be a problem. You'd have to stop the Avatar or the Dwarf Toss out, but maybe something more focused on the isolation instead of those...
Stay a While and Listen into a Ring of Frost?
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking maybe, but... if nothing else, you could use that Ring of Frost to get more, pack more punch from someone from a Gorge, but I think the bigger problem was just that Stitches in general has a very hard time with that much crowd control and getting onto the point and then leaving too when you need to back up and re-engage. And Jacker Kane trying to keep his Stitches healed up, it was tough for him.
Yeah, I really like the Hanzo pick at the end of that. You get extra poke range. Obviously, the longer auto attack range, you can step in, scatter arrow, the storm bow, things of that nature do have better poke. So pairing that with the Chromie, and again, with Stitches on the other side, Stitches isn't necessarily going to hard engage into that. In your composition of a Hammer and Jaina, there's no way to really get in there,
right.
And a lot of those targets were just way too beefy. So the counter, I guess, is to match range with range, and then Cattle on that Muradin, very, very tanky, as is Yrel. Yrel was never dying in any of those situations. The Ardent Defender, the minute Blizzard comes down, you're just like, well, I'm just going to stand in this once I pop Ardent Defender, because the more damage it does, the more healing I do, and the less damage you're going to do overall. So a lot of control on the front line. It seems like maybe a little bit of an answer here by Tempo Storm.
So though Tempo Storm lost on Towers of Doom, they seem to have been able to make it through the Sergeant Hammer comp. A lot of that is a different map too, but then the Chromie does seem to be working out now for different teams, though, like you said too, Hanzo at the end seemed to be a nice adjustment or a nice addition to that kind of composition.
Yeah, Tempo Storm, again, normally I think at this point when we see Volskaya, it doesn't have the same impact in the early game, but that death on K1 Pro, I think, was a major setback for Simplicity. It seems like they had held that top fort, but then he overextended just a little bit. That protector was just about to expire. Ended up catching the tail end of that, getting the explosion, but the follow-up route and the Storm Bolt out of that was very good on the side of Tempo Storm, and I feel had that fort not gone down, that experience differential might have been much less to overcome, but it just seemed like Simplicity, they got desperate. They went up, tried to take a fight without 13, or at least try and get back onto the point to force the rotations back, but that allowed Tempo Storm to reload with those turrets, had that healing pulse, and again, it's just a lot to overcome because Tempo Storm prioritizes those items more than anybody, and they're willing to concede time and points just to load up, and they'll take an even talent to your fight as long as they have the item control.
Well, make sure you guys are continuing to cheer in the Twitch chat for your favorite teams in this series and our final series of the evening as we check in with our total cheers. We are starting to get closer and closer to 14 million cheers. Thank you all so much for cheering for your favorite team, supporting them, and the HGC cheer system. Back to your point, Jay, how not only in this game, but even on Towers of Doom, when Simplicity eventually won the game, there were a few deaths that happened that felt very similar to that kind of death. Maybe just a little too hasty in that the plays that they were wanting to make, making sure that you're grouping up first. Even the Stitch's death at the end, right? Very hasty to get onto the point and the rest of the team getting separated away with that kind of comp. So we could see that Simplicity has put a lot of work in and they are making great adaptations. But can they contend with this world-class team in these final 1 to 2 games? We'll have to see. Up next, we're going to be going to Tomb of the Spider Queen. What do you make of it?
Well, it's a tempo pick, and I think it's something that with Simplicity, they love that first pick. They had the opportunity to pick the map, but I think they picked the 2 maps that they felt most comfortable with, running those hammer comps. Now they've got to discover something else. If they want to go back down the chain route, it's there, but you know there's going to be a high priority on that Johanna for these teams, and I think more so on the side of Tempo Storm, but obviously comfortable going back into things like Murd. And I just wonder, is the Garrosh ban priority still there for Tempo Storm? This is generally one of Garrosh's better battlegrounds, but again, playing around that, the Johanna in particular, the Jaina are things that definitely come to mind, but not just on Simplicity side, but also on Tempo side. Yeah,
Blaze too. I think that's going to be something that Simplicity is going to want. Again, for Zuna, it feels like a very Zuna-esque hero, though we might see another Ural from them. Worked out on Towers of Doom, but it's funny that you talk about Johanna being a contested pick for the 2 teams, because though she is, both teams have been playing her, it's not Cap's favorite hero at all. It's never really been Cap's favorite hero, so I know that he's like, why does she have to be so meta right now?
She's strong. She has had that pairing with Jaina that's actually worked out really, really well. So if they want to play to the strengths of that composition, it's definitely available to them. Again, I just think that Johanna on Tomb of the Spider Queen, as what we've seen from some of these teams, might actually be first pick worthy. And that is something that we will see, because I think that because Tempo Storm's going to be second pick, if Johanna's not first pick, I cannot imagine a world where we don't see Johanna going over to Cattle in that early rotation.
Tempo Storm played Maiev Genji on this map versus Octalysis on Friday, and though it felt very wave clear light because of that Johanna, a lot of that was saved, and they had a lot of priority in getting the first turn in, and they got a lot out of it. So expect that Tempo Storm also could just go aggressive too. There is that indication that seems to be how they've been playing quite a lot since, I mean, before definitely, but in the start of this phase.
Simplicity back to familiar territory with the first pick. Place they generally favor, but again, after their map picks of those few, they're like, look, we want that first pick available to us. Genji has been a common ban for them in most of their drafts. Hammer or not, Genji players on the side of Simplicity.
K1 Pro.
Yeah,
that's who played it.
It doesn't necessarily have the same ring to it.
Yes.
When you look around the league, obviously him coming back to it in that position is not something he's done in quite some time. I don't see them as a first pick Genji team, but I guess there's always a place to start.
Yeah, I see them way more focusing on getting their solo laner for Zuna. Maybe a Johanna, though I don't even know if they pick it that highly. I think it would either be that or Tiger JK support.